one night, and you talked about this earlier, at a friend's house, you're watching Mike Tyson, Frank Bruno in 1989, and something happened while you were watching that fight.
Those women before the fight came into the ring, Christy Martin and Deidre Gogarty. I didn't know either of their names at the time, but I just remember the whole world stopping. Because remember, I'm a fighter. I've been fighting.
Right, but I've been fighting.
Yeah, I've been fighting.
Just not sanctioned.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I'm getting in trouble for it.
Right.
I was like, women fight? And I'm like, now I'm like, I'm Muhammad Ali's daughter. I'm a fighter. I didn't know women fought. I could fight and not get in trouble? Like, it just looked so enticing to me. And I was just like, damn, I bet I could be good at it. But at the same time, I went home that night, you know, dreaming about it. And I remember the first person to say something was my friend's father. Girl, those women will take your head off. You're a pretty girl. And you're a pretty girl. You can't fight. You can't fight. And me and my friend looked at each other like, he don't know. You know, she was like, yeah, Layla, do it. So I went home, and of course I talked myself out of it because I was like, I don't know the first thing about being a boxer. I've never been an athlete, never participated in sports.
Oh, really?
Yep, never participated in any sport because I was too busy being bad, ditching school. You know, sports is organized. Did you play sports growing up?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you know,
Oh, yeah.
your parents
and you gotta have GPA too.
Yeah, and your parents have to drop you off and take you to practice and go to the game. I know because I do it now. I'm like, oh my God, no wonder. So yeah, I didn't play sports. I didn't even do PE because I wasn't there. I was ditching.
You wasn't dressing out?
No. So to think about actually doing it though, and then what will my father think? I don't think he's gonna like this, and I don't want to be a public person. That was the biggest feeling. I don't want to be a public person. You know, I told you, I'm like, so that was the turmoil inside of myself. So a whole year went by until I actually was like, I'm gonna try this. And I remember a client of mine was like, oh, I go to a boxing gym, and I didn't even know at the time. She's talking about boxing aerobics, right? But I was like, oh, okay. She's like, it's called LA Boxing. She's like, no, there's like boxers there. I was like, okay. So I went down there and I met a guy named Kevin Morgan who had been in the game for a long time. He's just one of those guys that trains, you know, the fighters that don't really have a name, usually the opponents. And I was like, yeah, I wanna box just to lose weight. I didn't say that I was actually thinking about boxing. And because I wanted to make sure that this is what I really wanted to do, that I could, you know, be committed to it and wasn't gonna embarrass myself, wasn't gonna embarrass my father. So I started training every night. I used to come in the gym 8 o'clock after school and work and train and Kevin and give him a ride home and give him a little money. And he was like, damn, you can punch. Yeah, because I remember the first time, you know, we got in there, you know what I'm saying? He was like, he saw stars, like, damn, like, so, and you know, people get excited once you see somebody athletic that can punch.
For sure.
And then it finally got around because I started sparring. Okay, maybe she's serious. Maybe she's really trying to, you know, box.
Did Coach know you?
Huh?
He knew who you were?
He knew. Yeah, at this point he knew. But it was kind of like I was naive and thinking, don't tell anybody. But it got around.
Yeah.
And then I sparred with a guy and dropped him the first time, and I still see him sometimes. It's
Really?
funny. He always act like he don't remember. He doesn't acknowledge. He doesn't acknowledge. It's funny because it's a guy, I'm not gonna say any names, but it's a guy who's like a reporter in boxing, but he was trying to work out a little bit. But you know, he's a smaller guy than me. So, and he wasn't a professional, and I can punch. So I dropped him right hand, and you know that green strength, like I threw it everything I had, and he was on the canvas. And I was
he
like,
don't remember that.
He knows, but he doesn't acknowledge it. No. It's kind of like he'll walk by and act like he don't see me like that.
Right.
I'm like, damn man, it wasn't like that. So yeah, I never would say who it was, but that's when everyone was like, oh, like,
it's real.
Okay, that's when it got around. Like she must be trying to do something, and then it got around to my dad.
Is this right? I got 1989 when you saw that fight, and you didn't have your first pro fight till 99. Was it 10?
October 99.
Wow. Okay. So I want to make sure I had that right. So you're doing the training little by little, and before you turn pro, you eventually finally talked to your father.
Yeah, my dad came to me and said, you know, I hear you're boxing because it got around, and I was like, yeah, I am. And he said, he basically tried to talk me out of it indirectly. He knew me. He's like, he can't just come out and say, don't do it. So he tried his reverse psychology. You know how hard this is gonna be? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I know, I've thought about it. And it's like the same way as with my kids now. A child, they think they know and they don't. So I'm like, he's like, there's no way she can know. So I'm like, Dad, I thought this through. This is what I'm gonna do. Well, what if you get knocked down? He's like, there's gonna be lights on you. He's trying to build the picture. Like, do you understand? It's not like the gym. like the pressure that's gonna be on you. You're gonna be walking to the ring. There's gonna be all these lights. My dad was good at like drawing, painting a picture of scenes.
And your
And
last name?
yes, all that. And I said, I know. He's like, what you gonna do if you get knocked down? I was like, I'm gonna get back up just like you did. So he was just like, and I could see his hands starting to shake and him getting really upset. And he just was, I don't want you to do it. And he said, it's not for you. It's not for women. It's a man's sport.
Wow.
And I don't support it.
Wow.
And I kind of expected he was gonna say that. And I just said, you know, I respect that, Dad, but I'm doing it anyway. I've already made my mind up. And I said, you don't have to support it. You know, I'm telling him, like, I'm letting him know, if you don't want to support it publicly, I'm okay with that. Because I don't expect you to lie and act like you like it. Like, because you have to have these talks, these behind the scenes talks. Yep. And I'm having this talk with the greatest of all time, who just told me, don't fight. It's not for you. And it's not even, you know, I'm as a man and as a fighter, I'm listening to that, not just as my dad. And he's telling me as his daughter, I don't want you to do it. But at the moment, none of that meant anything to me because I was expected that. He didn't know anything about women's boxing. He didn't know, he wasn't a part of my training. But none of that mattered. He didn't want to see me get hurt. I'm his baby girl. Nobody wants to see their baby in a grimy gym. So it's understandable why he said all of that. And he did come back to me and apologize. At a certain point, he said, you know, I was wrong. And this is after I got like my first world title. But he said, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I apologize. Really? Yeah. He's like, and we cried and we hugged.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He said, I was wrong. You know, you can fight. And he was like, and he started crying. He's like, you move like me and you jab like me. Yeah. And of course I started crying because I had told myself, I don't care what he thinks, because you have to. You have to put on your armor. I had to go fight. I couldn't worry about, was my dad going to be in the audience anytime I fought? I couldn't worry about who was coming, who was going to be there, what he was going to say publicly. I couldn't worry about any of that. I had to just, you know, focus on me and getting in that ring, and that's what I did. I put my blinders on, and then if I see him after the fight, hey, Dad, but I never used to worry about, because he was sick too, and he couldn't be everywhere.
That took a lot of courage to jump in the game that late, and Ali being your father. I mean, nobody who's ever fought knows what that feel like.
Yeah, and not only that, just doing everything under the lights. You know, people get to the point where you're dreaming about having a belt, dreaming about having a name, dreaming about being the champ. You know, nobody's watching you though. People have been watching me since day one. I remember when I first started and it became public that I was fighting, every female fighter that was anywhere near my weight class was dreaming about fighting me, how she was gonna whoop my ass and finally get some attention for herself, which made it fun.